So let's talk about what are the requirements and what's expected. And this is all basically, as a result of this House bill slash public act that came out. So this is in state legislature now. And so ISB has come out with the computer science standards to support that. But let's start with some good news, right? As soon as we hear requirements, sometimes we tend to think, uh-oh, what's coming down the pike? But there's a lot of good news here to share. First, you're likely addressing some or many of the expectations already if you're doing some form of technology or computer science in classrooms. Furthermore, you can integrate a lot of the standards into a variety of content areas, even those that are not tech focused. You can definitely address multiple standards at a time, and they're organized by grade band. So you don't have to feel pressured that every single grade level has to have something specific going on, as long as you're hitting those standards within a grade band. There are plenty of resources out there, and I'll share some of them towards the end. And this is really an opportunity and a thing that you could look at as the fun stuff, right? It's also important to know, and this is really important, especially important today, and I'll explain why in a minute. Computer science and computer literacy there's some overlap, but they're looked at as two completely different topics. And so ISB actually defines pretty well and delineates them pretty well as separate ideas. So let's dig into that a little bit, because there are a set of computer science expectations, and then there's computer literacy expectations. We'll start with high school. So high schools, beginning with the coming school year, 2022, 2023, your ninth graders are going to have a couple of requirements. First, they're going to need to participate in 1 year of a course that includes intensive instruction in computer literacy. That's the language that we're using. That is going to be a graduation requirement. Now, they don't have to participate in that course their freshman year in 22-23, but by the time they graduate in 25-26, they have to have completed a course. A couple of caveats: it can be a course that's counted towards other graduation requirements. So a class can double dip. It can fill the computer literacy requirement as well as other requirements. And it can be any subject. It does not have to be a tech course. It doesn't have to be called computer literacy. And it can even be two separate, semester courses per se, that as long as they're equivalent as a full year course, that would qualify. And so there's that fact sheet in the chat, but there's also this set of Illinois graduation requirements. And you can see now there that computer literacy is listed as a requirement with a description there, and then that would be checked off and starting in the year 22-23. So again, next year, your freshmen coming in before they graduate have to complete a course that includes intensive instruction in computer literacy. Additionally, and so there's just kind of an excerpt from the graduation requirements. And so here's a little visual that can help you out. So again, here's the school years, and then your ninth graders just kind of following that class in bold. They're the first group that's going to have to graduate with that requirement. Next year, anyone who's 10th grade or higher is not going to fulfill that requirement. Doesn't mean they couldn't also participate in this class, but it's important to know that they're not required, that every other class afterwards will be required to. Okay. Further requirements. So grades K through 12. So that was just high school. Grades K through 12, the language states that we must ensure students receive developmentally appropriate opportunities to gain computer literacy skills at each grade level. That had been something that, if you were paying attention and kind of knew about this legislation, that was kind of up in the air. Like, what does that mean? What does developmentally appropriate look like? What are these opportunities? We need more guidelines. And the good news is that as of probably, I'm thinking just this week, because I just heard about it today, this guidance just went live. Oh, it was today. Thank you, Jesse. She just posted in the chat that this document called the Computer Literacy Knowledge and Skill Development Continuum is now available. Super helpful document and really well put together. But if you take a look, it breaks down these different areas of computer literacy. It gives you the grade levels, and it even breaks them down into basically a beginning, developing, and secured. So like a beginning, middle, and advanced type of thing. And it kind of delineates for you very clearly where students should be with each of these at each grade level, because this is what's going to be something you're going to need to be addressing beginning next year if you're K through 12. The good news is a lot of it's kind of laid out for you. You'll also see a lot of it are things that you're probably already doing in a lot of cases, especially if your school's one-to-one. Identifying basic components of a device, turning it on and off, using a mouse and trackpad. So again, that's just one area, and we can go through and see all the different areas. But much of this are things that if your students are using devices regularly and they're involved in computing in any way, you're probably teaching this either directly or they're picking it up as you're doing projects in school. Now it's just that we're formalizing and or we're being very clear about what schools and what teachers and what students should be doing at each level, which just makes planning a little better. And again, it makes that equity piece a little more formalized, and that every student is now expected to get these things in each class, at each grade level. And it also helps you provide professional development to your teachers to help prepare them so that everyone's on a level playing field as well. Uh, Starting here at page 6, they have examples of how you can integrate a lot of these concepts into a variety of subject areas, again, that are not technical. So there's social studies, there's science, ELA and math are all included here. So again, this is computer literacy focused. So please take some time to dig into that document on your own time and look at all the great information that's there and the integration opportunities that are there. And that just dropped today. So very well timed for our webinar today. Now, with that said, and there's kind of a breakdown if you needed a one pager of the 4 major areas of computer literacy, and a screenshot of what they look like. We've talked a lot about them from the standards, from the standpoint of them being requirements and mandates, but I'd really like to look at this as an opportunity and to kind of think about how we're approaching this. Here's some of the language from the mandate. It says local districts may set requirements for graduation or participation beyond the state minimum requirements. So keep in mind, just because you're only required to have one computer literacy course, or you're only required to offer CS as an option, that's the bare minimum. It doesn't mean that a school couldn't decide to require more than that for graduation. It doesn't mean that a school couldn't offer more opportunities than what's required. I'd also think about another piece of language in the mandate about accessible and opportunity, right? So, are we offering computer science, computer literacy education that is truly accessible to everyone, to students, regardless of their background, regardless of whatever technology they may or may not have at home, regardless of their language, their status as an English language learner, a multilingual student, any disabilities they may have? Are they truly accessible courses, and are students all being offered the opportunity? So think of this, especially if you have an established program, as an opportunity to say, let's make sure everyone's having the opportunity. And finally, just kind of looking at all of this from the standpoint of compliance, checking a box and making sure we got what the state asked versus program development. And so that's really important now. If you're just now realizing that the requirement is computer literacy K-8, and you're not technically required to teach anything computer science, you might still say, well, we might not have to be compliant, but we still want to develop a program. We still believe in computer science as a K-8 endeavor. So just kind of a mindset shift, and think about how you're approaching this. So with that said, here's kind of a one pager with all of those links. So when you get these slides, you'll be able to have them. I do need to add in there the computer literacy stuff, but again, that just dropped today. So I'll add that in before this gets